Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SCB Steelers Inside Blitz, presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. It's the dead season. We are in the middle of July now, not quite the middle, early July still. And, for a lot of teams, there's absolutely nothing going on. Obviously, we've had a few news bites, if you will, to keep things interesting. And, last week we did the show on Tuesday night. Normally, we do our podcast Thursday at 10, which we will return to our normal time this week. But two reasons we went early last week was one, obviously, because of the trade of Minka back to Miami and the acquisition, therefore, of Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. And plus, it was 4th of July on Friday, and we figured a lot of people were probably already celebrating, heading out of town, and the last thing they were going to do was sit around and listen to us. So we'll be back at the regular time. And, I started this little short-term podcast thing a few months ago, and largely because the three guys that do the show with me are very bright and thoughtful, and much more so than I am. So I just moderate, try to move on. And so this is my little opportunity to get a few things off my chest or share a few things, maybe because they're in my head and I just want to, or they the news cycle changes so rapidly these days. But anyway, thanks for the reception. It's great. I appreciate those of you guys that take 10 minutes out of your day to watch and listen. Tonight, just a couple of things here related to the Steelers, of course. Yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers turned 92 years old. And this all happened because Art Rooney had a good day at the track. Okay. He won some money, decided to buy a pro football franchise, at that time known as the Pittsburgh Pirates. A few years later, they would become the Steelers, and such is the history. Now, look, the last 10 years haven't been great. There are franchises in the NFL that would love to be able to say they've been to the playoffs 4 or 5, 6 times and have lost every time. They would take that. They'd sign up for it. We don't. That's not what we sign up for. We sign up for playoff victories and Super Bowl runs. That's the expectation, and that's going to be the expectation. However, there is nothing like being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan for numerous reasons. The colors, the terrible towel, and everything else that goes with it. There's just nothing like it. And I know other fan bases feel passionately about their situations, and rightfully they should. But in my book, there's nothing better. And ironically, maybe not, I don't know, Jack Lambert, the 4-time Super Bowl champion, Hall of Fame linebacker, was also born the same day that the Pittsburgh Steelers were born, July 8th. He turned 73 years old yesterday. And you could probably make an argument that the only other person would have been Mean Joe Green. But Jack being born the same day as the Steelers just made too much sense. And I know younger fans have heard and have seen clips of Jack Lambert. And I guarantee you've been told by your grandparents and your parents that football's not the way it used to be. Well, you know what? A lot of things aren't the way they used to be. Baseball isn't, hockey isn't, basketball certainly isn't, pro wrestling certainly isn't, okay? Things change. It doesn't mean they change for the better or the worse. They just change. And I'm grateful that I had the chance as a kid to watch Jack Lambert play football. And I'll never forget it. And if anybody really truly does epitomize the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's Jack Lambert. So wherever he is, and he is one of those that has chosen to largely stay out of the spotlight. Many of his contemporaries have jumped right in it for one reason or another. But he has very much enjoyed the privacy of his post-football life. And it doesn't mean that we don't take time to celebrate him. 73 years old yesterday, Jack Lambert. Another item Omar Khan this week got a 3-year contract extension. And I get overly emotional. I mean, it's football. Who doesn't? And I jump to conclusions probably sometimes more often than not. And I'm not saying I did in this case. I'm going to stick to my guns a little bit, but let me just lay this out first. You know, when fans or people in general know that the draft has happened, for example, and they, oh, hey, how'd the Steelers draft go? And I always have the same answer. I say, ask me in 3 years, because I'm going to need 3 years to really be able to evaluate the players drafted and decide whether or not we've got some future, stars, future starters, or even if it's been a decent class. And really, I should take that same approach with coaches, general managers as well. It's hard to, unless things just go absolutely in the toilet in the first or second year. Otherwise, you got to give them some time. Now, Omar Khan has had 3 drafts. You'll recall that Kevin Colbert was still the GM when they drafted Kenny Pickett. And so in his first 3 drafts, Omar has had Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, and now this year Derek Harmon. So, yes, it's fair to make the argument that we got to give him more time. But the argument I made was that what have they done so far? I mean, Mike Tomlin has gotten, 3 or 4 extensions since the last time they won a postseason game. And I appreciate the patience. I appreciate the dedication to staying with people that the Steelers have shown over the last 50 plus years. It's unique, it's special, but at the same time, I often wonder if it isn't also a detriment at times too. And I'm not saying that Omar shouldn't have gotten an extension. I just question, what exactly are we rewarding? And I hope in a year or 2, maybe 3, Omar can pull up this video, send it to me, and say in your face while he's celebrating the Super Bowl. I would love nothing better than that. I question that. That's all I'm getting at in terms of that. And believe me, if this year does not go well, then I think Mike Tomlin will be under just as much criticism as Omar Khan, if not more. Okay. The last piece I want to talk about, and then I'll get on out of here and give you the rest of your time to you. Expectations for Will Howard. Me and the guys, we go back and forth all the time about this because, Will Howard is a very, I don't know that I would call him a household name, but when you lead your team to 3 straight wins and then a national title game victory, people start to know who you are when you're the quarterback. And I think people also have to recognize Will Howard was drafted in the 6th round. He wasn't a first round or a second round pick. And if a guy isn't drafted until the 6th round, that means there's concerns. Okay. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. Yes. For every one of those, there are probably 400, 500, 600 guys that it doesn't work with. My argument has been that if this season really does not go well, okay, and we are mid-late season, we're way out of it, maybe Rodgers is hurt, I don't have a problem with giving Will Howard a few starts. I don't. See what you got. I mean, I don't think he's going to be anything much more than a career backup in the NFL. And as we know, many career backups, Chase Daniel in particular, have gone on to make plenty of money in their careers. But my point is just simply that you don't know what you got until you try it. Now, if we get into training camp and he's struggling, all right, and let's also not forget the dude had wicked talent around him at Ohio State. Most NFL teams would die to have even half that talent in front of him, at his receivers, at his running backs. I mean, really, he just had to make sure that they got the ball, and that was that. And that's, great quarterbacks are often built on that. But there's not a big time arm there. I don't know that there's big time accuracy there. He really only kind of had to read half the field a lot at Ohio State, and as all of you know, the NFL is going to be a lot different in that. But if he shows progress through training camp and plays decently in preseason games, and we get to week 12 or 13, and we're so far out of it we can't even see the top of the standings, then what are you gaining by playing Mason Rudolph or Skylar Thompson? No offense to those guys. And again, I think it's far different. If Aaron Rodgers was hurt and we're sitting there like at 5-7, then by all means you start Mason Rudolph. You maybe get hot. You maybe find your way into the postseason. He's led us there before once. But if we are way out of it, then I think you give Howard a chance. And look, if he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. But at the same time, I get people saying, why waste the time? Well, you waste the time just simply to see what you got. That's all I'm saying. You would likely do it with most other positions in those situations. So if he's prepared, if he does the right things, I'm okay with it. But we'll see. We will more than likely talk about those items and many, many others on the show coming up tomorrow night, the SCB Steelers podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated, and 10 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night. That's Thursday night, July 10th. We'll be live on the YouTube channel. And, of course, you can always catch up with the show later there. You can catch up with the audio. We're on any number of platforms from Apple Podcasts to Google and iHeartRadio and all that stuff. We're everywhere, as they say. So yeah, check us out tomorrow night, and we'll get into a lot more in depth. We'll have some drinks. We'll have some good times, as they say, along the way. So hope everybody's having a good summer so far, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow night. And hey, go Steelers.